Most people would never guess that this working spray bottle was made from a discarded spray can and a plastic Coca-Cola bottle. But after my original spray can ran empty during a repair project, I started thinking about how much useful hardware gets thrown away every day without anyone noticing. Hey everyone, I'm Dan. Welcome back to Dan Fix. Before we start, if you enjoy practical DIY projects like this, don't forget to like and share the video because it really helps support the channel. Now, let's take this empty spray can apart carefully and see what's still useful inside. Using a flat screwdriver, I slowly pry around the edge of the spray cap. Small movements, even pressure. The plastic cap eventually starts loosening little by little. After that, pliers are used to grip the spray nozzle and pull it upward carefully. Now we can finally see the internal spray valve system hidden underneath. But the most important part is still trapped inside the metal can itself. So, the next step is cutting the spray can open. Using a handheld cutting tool, I carefully cut only through the outer metal shell. This part needs patience because cutting too deep can damage the internal valve assembly we're trying to reuse. Once the metal opens up, the inside of the spray can finally becomes visible. And right away you can see two small metal balls hidden inside. Now, these small balls may look unimportant, but they actually play a very important role inside spray cans. Their job is to mix the paint constantly whenever the can is shaken. Without them, the paint pigments begin separating over time, causing uneven spray patterns and weak color consistency. Now the two mixing balls are dropped into acetone to dissolve the old dried paint stuck on the surface. The spray nozzle and valve components also get cleaned carefully using the same solution. Using the cutting tool again, I slowly trim away the metal surrounding the valve. Very slowly, very carefully, because damaging this section would completely ruin the rebuild later. Once the valve section is finally separated from the metal, can the sharp metal edges immediately need attention? So I use a file to smooth the rough edges carefully. This part matters more than it may seem because sharp metal corners can easily become dangerous during assembly later. Now the real idea behind this project finally starts becoming visible. We're going to rebuild this spray system onto a reusable plastic bottle. Here I have a Coca-Cola bottle that will become the new paint container. The bottle cap gets drilled carefully so the spray valve can fit through tightly. At first, the opening is slightly too small, so small trimming cuts are made slowly using scissors until the valve slides into place properly. And honestly, achieving the perfect fit here is extremely important. Even tiny gaps can create air leaks later once pressure starts building inside the bottle. Now comes the sealing process. The spray valve is aligned carefully in the center of the bottle cap while strong adhesive is applied slowly around the edges. To reinforce the connection even further, baking soda is added over the adhesive. Almost immediately, the material begins hardening into a much stronger structure. This combination works surprisingly well for reinforcing joints because the powder helps strengthen and stabilize the adhesive while filling small gaps at the same time. Now we move to the pressure system. A motorcycle tire valve will allow us to pump air pressure directly into the bottle later. First, I choose a position near the lower section of the bottle and carefully drill a hole. Then, the tire valve is prepared for installation. But pushing the valve through thick plastic by hand is extremely difficult. So instead, I use a simple pull string method. A small string passes through the bottle opening and connects to the valve. Then slowly pulling the string upward guides the valve into position from inside the bottle. And honestly, this little trick makes the installation process much easier while also helping prevent damage to the rubber valve. Once the valve reaches the opening, pliers are used to tighten and secure it completely. Now the bottle finally has both systems installed, the spray valve above and the air pressure valve below. At this stage, the project already starts looking like a real workshop tool instead of discarded trash. Now it's time to prepare the paint. First, the two cleaned mixing balls go back into the bottle, then the paint is poured in slowly. Controlled amounts, not too full, leaving enough empty space inside for compressed air pressure later. But the paint itself is still slightly too thick for proper spraying, so a small amount of acetone is added carefully to thin the paint down. This part is actually very important. Paint that's too thick struggles to atomize correctly and often sprays unevenly. But paint that's too thin loses coverage and becomes watery. So the consistency needs to remain balanced somewhere in the middle. Now everything is sealed tightly, and the pressure test can finally begin. Using a bicycle pump, air starts entering the bottle through the tire valve. Slow pumping motions. Pressure gradually building inside the container. At this point, I'm watching closely for leaks because even a tiny weak seal can release pressure very quickly. But thankfully, everything still feels solid. The first spray test. I point the bottle toward a piece of cardboard and press the nozzle carefully. And immediately the paint sprays outward in a smooth, controlled pattern. Even coverage, fine mist, no leaking around the cap, no pressure loss. Honestly, seeing this homemade system work properly is incredibly satisfying because almost every part of it came from materials most people normally throw away without a second thought. An empty spray can, an old plastic bottle, a leftover valve, and now all of those discarded pieces have become a reusable spray system ready for future workshop projects. Sometimes the difference between trash and something useful is simply understanding how the original system works. Once you understand the engineering hidden inside everyday objects, completely different possibilities start appearing everywhere around you. If you enjoyed this project, don't forget to like and subscribe because there are still many more useful DIY ideas coming soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.